Welcome back to Build Beyond with Tecton Podcast. Today we're going to start out talking about religion, politics, and how that all has to do with your family business. Your business and family, rather. So let's start it out. I think anybody that doesn't consider religion and politics in their whole structure, in their culture as a business, if they don't always consider that the evolving of politics, the evolving of religion, and all of that, they have to consider that in the culture of their business to really get anywhere, because we're dealing with new generation, the millennials, the Gen Z, they're all changing in all this different subjects. Like we have to conform in some way. We have to put it out there. So my opinion on religion is we all come from a religious background, that our experiences back there, what we learned as a kid, our father being really staunch in the FLDS and our mother is still really staunch. We can't ignore the fact that we came from that, and whether or not the values that we got from that.
So you're saying that the values that you grew up with are valuable to your business building ability.
I would say that the way that I took the lessons I learned in that religion, it's not about what the religion taught. It's about how we take it, what we do with those lessons or with those principles that makes us who we are.
But is it religion or is it just upbringing, like the culture you grew up in? Is it
and like how do you define religion?
The reason I want to dig into it is the putting religion in business on its face seems like, well, why do you got to do that? Like that's what I ask myself. Why do you got to do that?
Why do you got to do that? We lived firsthand where religion held people back. Like everybody says our family could have been very wealthy. Obviously, given the context, we probably wouldn't be here and have the dad that we have. But
yeah, because everybody
says he would be so wealthy if he didn't give so much religion. And every choice he made was what does the religion need me to do? It wasn't, what do I need to do to be successful, ever.
Not everything. He was a very good dairyman. And he's
a very good dairyman,
then he wasn't good business.
What about Thanksgiving Point? Like the perfect opportunity to buy that. I mean, we heard it from our parents. Like it's not just but he made the decision to not to because of religion.
One of the things to your point, I'm one of the ones that really feel like Father could have been very wealthy if he wouldn't have dedicated his focus and his whole mindset to what the religion wants and what he felt like was the society and the social structure he wanted, which to me, that's my definition of religion. It's a social structure. It's a society.
And a culture.
It's like our mom was his second wife. So, like, for us to criticize what he did is kind of odd in and of itself.
I'm not criticizing it.
But one of the reason why I bring up the fact that I believe he would be this if he wasn't focused here is because we gleaned from him, especially us four. We gleaned from him so many common sense principles. And I believe that if we take those common sense principles that he focused on religion and we focus them on business and our own beliefs, we will excel equally in business.
No, and that's a good point. But I kind of want to go back to the impact that religion has on businesses. If you let it, like, it has just as much driving force to hold you back from being successful financially than anything. Obviously, it can help you, and I get that, but
Well, I mean, I think the only thing that can help you based on religion is the strict, step-by-step culture that it creates. Like it's very strict.
It helps you create some discipline to help you
the discipline. Yeah. And I think it's more. I think that there's an argument to be said that we're arguing religion when it's really spirituality that we should be arguing.
I was going to ask you about that. Like, what do you say about a businessman that's never seen religion, never grew up in religion, and just his life was to grow up and be an entrepreneur and start something? Like, we put it in the subject like it was a whole, but I don't believe that politics has to be there. Everyone knows that. I mean,
they force it on us.
Yeah.
well,
I mean, that's a driving force of.
I think that when you're not constrained by a religion or a philosophy, I should say, you're endless more or less. But most of the time, you'll find that people that are not constrained by that philosophy that religion and spirituality gives them, they're constrained by something else that's constraining them. So I don't believe, it's just not defined. And the most common constraint I believe is religion and spirituality tied to religion. Because you can be spiritual and be endless, right? Like spirituality can be separate from religion, but religion cannot be separate from spirituality. So spirituality can go as high as you want. You can be as successful as you want if you're just spiritual. But if you're in a religion, it's very limiting. What do you think, Bert?
I mean, we talk of success. And normally, when you talk of the word success, it's related to money. Mm-hmm. But each one of us four here had the same dad. And he has a legacy, we feel like, that is unprecedented in the world. He has the love and respect of his posterity that lives on. We're sitting here talking about him almost 20 years after he passed away, as if, he's the reason we're here. And he is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so for me, when you talking about E-Myth, I'll bring E-Myth into it. Yeah. Because in E-Myth, it says, imagine yourself in your grave. Your loved ones are talking about you. And what are they saying about you? You've lived your life. You didn't take any of that money with you. You didn't take any of that success with you. But were you successful? What are they saying? And how long will your memory live on? And who is actually going to live the things that created that legacy? Like our dad, he had values of teaching, he had values of work, and he had values of spirituality. And he obviously had the value of being able to, against all odds, make a decision that he knew would ruin his relationship with people he loved.
His siblings.
So there was something about his drive, his dad, and his life that made him take paths that didn't lead to money, but it sure did lead to a posterity that brings us together at this table today. And
to your point, in principle, he was the greatest example a dad could ever give.
Yeah,
right,
definitely. And just for
very
your viewers,
successful.
Yeah, just for our viewers, I'll tell you what, the silence that you heard when Bert was talking about our dad is the silence of total respect. There's not one of us or our siblings that don't cherish every moment that we had, the memories, every memory, everything we had about our dad. My dad kicked me in the butt once when I was on the ground. And he just kind of chuckled, and Nephi was there, and he was
chuckled.
No, Father chuckled. You got mad.
He laughed too.
There's no way I got mad.
No, I remember you got after me afterwards because I kicked back. Okay, I need to finish the story. So I'm this little kid sitting on the floor in the entryway, and I'm pouting, and Father has his arm on you, and he's walking through, and I'm pouting, throwing a fit. And he boots me. I barely fucking felt it. Let's be real. And I got all saucy and I kicked him in the back of the heel. And he just kind of, he made another comment, whatever. And you got mad at me afterwards. But my point is that memory, like, it lives on forever. I was 11 when Father passed, and I didn't gain the respect for Father that I have today until I got to know myself. And I went on a journey at age 22 to get to know myself. Because I got that age, and I wanted to be successful. I wanted to be someone great. But I didn't know how. I didn't even know myself. Like, how do I know how to change? So I went on a journey to get to know myself. And then the biggest thing I learned is how to love and respect my Father more than I ever thought I could.
So what was it, can you even recall, like, what was it that sent you on that journey just because you didn't have a path forward? So you're like, stop, wait a minute.
That goes really deep. And I was still in the religion at the time. I was really trying to be faithful to our dear holy prophet and just really follow everything and say my prayers and all that. But that wasn't getting me a damn place. And that's honestly why I feel the way I feel about religion and religious prayer and all that, is it wasn't getting me anywhere. I'll tell you what, there went, not to bring up the taboo conversation, but there went fucking months without me jacking off because I was being faithful. I was praying. I was doing everything right. And it wasn't changing anything. And so when I weren't changing, then something was wrong. So I went on the journey of like, okay, do I need a woman in my life? What do I need in my life? So I started figuring out how to try to get to women. And the way I knew was to go drinking, go get on the streets and become that street kid that's out drinking, trying to attract women off my drunkenness and all that. And it just wasn't a fit. I tried to picture myself being that.
If you believed that just doing it one time in a couple months, like, why did you think that a couple months was enough time that you should see some change?
You're talking about prayer?
Yeah.
I didn't just do it a couple months. I'm saying I've done this time and time again for months at a span, where I'd fall back.
He only fell off the wagon every 6 months.
Yeah, so to speak.
Isn't like one sin take away hundreds of blessings?
No, the way we're taught is one prayer takes away all the sins.
I don't remember.
No, that was baptism, Nate.
Yeah. I don't remember that.
It's all the same. Yeah. I'm just simply saying, to answer the question of what went on around me, realizing I need to learn myself was I in my head, I went down the road of becoming that drinker, becoming that druggie, you may say, to try to go down that route because everybody around me that was leaving the religion, that's the route they were going. And then I met my beautiful soon-to-be wife, fiance. We have 2 kids together, so we're everything but legally wife. She's everything but legally wife. And at that moment, I realized that I needed to take my own life in my own hands. And that's the character that's actually successful, is people that take responsibility themselves. And so at that moment, in that sector of time, I realized I need to get to know myself. Is trying to figure out how to really make religion work, and that's why I have the feelings on religion as I do. And I.
So to recap, at age 22, you realized you had to take responsibility for yourself, and you alone controlled your destiny
in every way. And I'm not just saying physically and starting my business and doing it actively. I got to know myself over the last 8 years I'm 30 today. So
Today's
intensely.
Your birthday?
What?
Today's your birthday?
Sure.
Just kidding.
I'll take any birthday any day. I'll take I got to know myself so intensely, and I continue to get to know myself so intensely. If there was, and this is obviously my take off a lot of study, if there's a characteristic someone's like, where did you get that? I could tell you where I feel like I got it in every detail.
I've noticed that I struggle sometimes with, like, when somebody says, where do you get this trait? Or like, whether it's good or bad, then I struggle finding where it came from. And like, that's why I asked, like, you know when you decided that you had to control your own destiny? I mean, absolutely. I would say
it was an intentional, I can tell you where I was.
Yeah.
I was in my master bathroom. Not jerking off. I wish. No,
he was you waited a few months, and then you finally says, "I'm doing it.
Taking my life into my own
control
hands.
my destiny right here. I have to control my belief whether this is wrong or not."
Well, I think we all went through a similar circumstance, especially when it comes to praying and trying not to masturbate or do things that were immoral or watch TV or listen to music or any of the things that we were suggested or told not to do. But it is intriguing that at that age, that because I was probably 28 or 29 before I actually thought to myself, it's me or nothing. Like,
I was 21. It was when I was working for Doug.
It's right after. For me, it was right after I had my first kid. I had to,
well, man, maybe we're talking about different things. I've always been responsible for myself and beyond, but
I think, and you kind of come out the gate with your own business, like you were making it work. I was hanging on the coattail of somebody else and something else, and like kind of going along for the ride. When I knew that I had to step out and go make something for myself. And thank God I got the opportunity to go on in the oil field and have the opportunity to make 6 digits a year at that age and that time, because that was a lot of money then.
Would have been easy to save 6 months at that point.
Yeah, it should have been easy to save 6 months at that point. But like when I knew I can't hang on the coattails or go along with the ride anymore was at that point. When the first rejection I got really as a person.
I remember those moments as well, but I think what I'm trying to imply and what I'm saying, and I think this is what Bert's saying too, is the mental getting to know yourself. It has nothing to do with changing to take your own responsible of your own life. I'm saying the mental, like, knowing you need to get information out to get new information in. That intense study, like there was years there where I would lay in bed intentionally, and then I got into a habit of it. I would lay in bed thinking of, okay, what happened today? Was it a good result or was it a bad result? And if it was a good result, I still look back and says, okay, where was my headspace? Like, figuring out how to repeat that scenario, and it starts in your headspace. And if it was a bad thing, I did the same thing. Okay, what do I need to change about my headspace to eliminate those bad results that day? So it's the intense. That's what I'm talking about. Is the intense.
You're only going to get out of this what you put in. The realization that you control your own destiny by the choices you make from here on out.
And to realize it starts with your subconscious. It starts with your like, it's just like the call in one of the episodes we did, maybe the last one, depending on when it's posted. We talked about the fight and me jumping off and hanging up. I knew at that moment there was no way I was adding to that conversation. If I wouldn't have known that about myself, I probably would have tried to fix it in the moment, and I couldn't have. I've been there before.
So what about yourself? Did you know that you couldn't say I'm not in the right headspace, so I'm going to leave this call and then hang up versus just hang up?
It was the result of going through what he went through at 22, and that's what I'm asking. That's what that's how I've taken
it was
that.
the result of being in that situation before.
Now I want to get into a different conversation. How is that the right result of? I mean, we all do it.
He admitted it wasn't the right result.
So you're saying
I had to get off.
You're saying at 22, you figured out yourself enough to know that you had to handle that the way you did in the moment.
No, I went on the journey. To
know that you need to handle that the way you did.
I went on the journey at age 22 to start finding out about myself. And I have had those kind of conversations where I was in the wrong headspace, and I tried to fix it in the moment without going back, pulling back, and just relaxing, meditating, thinking about it, getting myself in the right headspace, and revisiting the conversation.
Right.
So that's what.
I think we've all done both.
How I hung up might have been wrong, but hanging up was not wrong.
No.
And knowing that I needed to hang up was the result of knowing what the result was going to be. Yes. Well, no, not what I figured out. That was just the start of the journey.
Yeah.
And
Gotcha.
So much so is one of our company members, employees, whatever you'd like to refer them to, asked me about a year ago, like, what's one thing, Nate? What's one thing that you could tell me to do to change my life or to become successful? And I says, get to know yourself. Really get to know yourself. You can't change what you don't know. So, but anyways, the reason why this is all relative is the spirituality and the religion formed so much of my future, and I don't believe I could have got away from it if I wouldn't have went through that journey of getting to know myself. Like all these mind blocks of that the religion was giving me was not allowing me to make the next step in life, in my success. So, and then politics, I honestly didn't even start talking about politics till then. So I think at that moment, you're just like, oh shit, politics does have to do with my day-to-day affairs. Politics is something that I need to be aware of. And then from there, it just went on to business and we're here today. But I don't know, what do you guys think? I just have the mic this whole time when you guys are hosts too.
Well, to be fair, we were asking questions.
Yeah.
I want to hear when Soup's story when he found his religion with his business.
What business are we talking about?
When you was doing the business in religion. I'm just kidding.
All I got to say is I applaud those couple months.
I mostly just want to hear from Soup.
Well, I'm enjoying the listening.
Hey,
I should be on the other side of that camera.
Hey, like talking about like the taboo conversations that the LDS and the FLDS religion in particular create among the kids, like don't masturbate, don't do this, don't have sex till after marriage, all that taboo stuff that nobody wants to talk about on podcasts, or maybe some do. But go listen to Eric Gubler's podcast. I don't have the date. What's today? It came out today. Yeah. So 125 of 24. Go listen to Eric Gubler's podcast. 125 of 24. That was a great podcast. We talked about all that taboo stuff. It was really great. If you want to know my feelings about all that. But switching over to politics in this same subject.
Today's the 30th, by the way.
It's the 30th?
Yeah.
Bro.
Oh, the 25 is the percentage of my battery. So
we love
130.
There's your goober.
January 30th of 24 episode of Eric Gubler's.
I was just letting you run them around a little bit.
Well, I mean,
He's in the zone.
You would have listened to it if it took you that long to find it.
Maybe.
As far as like the Mormon Church and the FLDS, I got baptized in both. And
which one felt better?
They're both kind of wet.
Different points of my life. So both of them had taught me a lot of valuable lessons, but not active, obviously.
Doesn't look obvious to me. Still not obvious. Now, if that was coffee.
But what I learned between the two is there's not that much difference. There was the difference I learned was, for me, is I was told in the FLDS, I was told like not to do all these immoral acts or jack off or do all that, and it made me want to do it.
Yeah,
but the Mormon Church, they don't focus so much on that. They focus it like drinking's bad and like coffee's bad, but like the sexuality part in that religion, it's not really something.
So that cult was just really careful on what sacrifices to ask of you.
They
pretty much
don't they really drive home the premarital sex though too?
Yeah, they do.
They drive that home as much as drinking or anything.
That's just what the girls told you.
Well, I understand they're like, oh, don't you have those thoughts like we dealt with, and don't you act on those impulsive touch yourself thoughts, but like they go after like no premarital sex, like
I'm not saying they
like
don't,
that, right?
But they focus. That's not their focal point. Like I felt like it was in the FLDS.
But to be fair, you were a grown man when you were baptized in the LDS. That's what I'm saying.
It meant something different because I was in a different.
You had other options of release too.
What was the most important thing that they focused on?
Tithing, coffee,
going to the temple.
All of that.
So
the temple's a big one.
How do we tie politics in to religion? We haven't started talking about business in this scenario yet.
Both brainwash you.
That is so true.
That is so true.
But
they both have mechanisms of brainwashing, and they need your money.
The individual controlling the narrative, or the politician, if he's in a certain religion, that's the way it's gonna go. I mean that.
Both need your money and your assets.
Behind the scenes, religion drives more than the in-our-face politicians.
You're saying religion drives politicians more than we know? Is that what you're saying?
Religion itself drives the world. Like you think of the
that's because religion became a business.
Yeah.
I mean,
I have a different point of view on that, but I'll let you go.
So we call it deep state. I call it deep. I'm a huge believer in the ones we see are not the ones running the show.
Absolutely.
I believe that whether individuals, particular beliefs, religious, are 100% affecting the way that they make it run. And it could be they're using that leverage to be the face of that religion, but yet really moving the show. Like you don't have something around for as long as civilization has been around in religion that doesn't dominate in the end. Religion controlled kingdoms. Religion controlled the world.
Let's not forget the reason why the
centuries.
United States is a free country is because, or for people to practice their own religion. That was why it was so sought after.
But it's also founded on Christian principles. And through this conversation, I would like to defend Christian principles on the face because of what they actually have to. We're not attacking
Christian principles are religion. Like period.
But that's what the country was founded on was Christian principles.
Was
I mean, have you ever watched?
Freedom.
You ever watch a flag
Was
being
Christian.
folded in the honor of a deceased?
Yeah, military.
All the folds mean something else, and some of them have to do with God and Christianity and what the country was founded on under those.
I mean,
those
our money's
ideologies.
in God we trust. I mean,
yeah. So
The reason why I think it's the other way around, I think politics influence religion. And when politics get so big that they start influencing the religion is when you know we're headed to a society, to a social government.
I think that's 100% wrong. Like, the only thing that's lasted the test of times is religion.
You know what? It's because social governments use religion as a tool.
Religion uses social governments as a tool.
But how do you say religion is out? Well,
So,
religion, new religions, evolving religions, like different religions, then they do.
I understand that you can have an evolving religion and a religion that is young and new. Like ours wasn't necessarily new, but it was tiny in the grand scheme of things. Yeah. But look at the religions that run the world.
No, I think it's look at the religions that the social governments use. So let me make my point, please. So the LDS Church, who the FLDS sprung off of back in the early 1900s, the LDS Church was very strict back then. They have evolved to changing that. I'm not racist or anything, but they evolved to changing the Negroes to be able to hold priesthood, etc., etc. They evolve as the government forces them. The government says, "Come, we're doing this." Well, they got rid of polygamy because the government said they didn't like it. The government is slowly changing and evolving the LDS Church into a tool. So I would predict in 50 or 60 years.
Accepted the vaccination.
Exactly. They're like 90%, and I was talking about this in Eric Gubler's podcast, and he confirmed all this from his standpoint. He says that the 90% of people around him wasn't going to take the vax until their prophet said do it.
Yep.
The government uses, at least in this scenario,
and that's because a lot of them are in tune with a good feel or your gut feeling and how you feel something would turn out.
Well, that what you guys are saying, like on its face, it's true. Like it's just like seeing this politician and think that he's actually the one making his policies that he's talking to us about. Like, I don't believe that. Like you says, the ones forcing the Mormon religion to change their beliefs was somebody being controlled by somebody else that believes a religion that's obviously very high because he has all that power. Because even in the Mormon religion,
the social government that is changing him. It wasn't a conservative government. It wasn't a government of the people. It was a social government that is pressuring the LDS Church to change.
That's right.
A social government is the one that's changing.
You know, government, I believe, should be there to protect religion and let people live what they want.
And that's what our country was founded on.
Absolutely.
The religion, that's up to each individual and what feels good to them. Politics affects that in the way of putting pressure on you to do what the laws of the land say to do.
And are decided by the leaders of the big name religions. Let's be honest.
Well, I don't necessarily disagree with that, but there's no proof to it.
Well, right, and there's no proof to the deep state, but that's why I led with the deep state. Like, it's a conspiracy back this what's happening behind the scenes type and narrative that I'm pushing.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. And then it's easier to talk about on the reality.
I mean, I'm going down a conspiracy theorist rabbit hole type.
What's your thoughts on going down the rabbit hole? Let's do a little. Let's do a little like booster here. What's your thoughts on going down rabbit hole? When I say rabbit hole, I mean unproven conspiracies.
Oh, unproven conspiracies. I like talking about conspiracies you can't prove, but sometimes I feel like we think we have them proved and they're not really proved. But
right, there's
like all these arrows pointing there in your mind, and we live our lives between our ears. And so when we've convinced ourselves something is true, it's not that easy to convince us it's not true. We have to have more than proof. Like literally more than proof
times
that it's not true. You take the religion.
Million times easier to fool somebody than to convince them that they've been fooled.
Yeah. And I think that even if it's that doesn't matter what number you use, 1,000,000 times, 10 times, whatever the saying started with. But it's like the rabbit hole of the religion, and you're talking about when did like the LDS and the FLDS break off from each other, and back in John Taylor and Wilford Rudder's time. But it was actually a group of the brethren that got together and drew up a proposal for John Taylor to look at that says, well, we could comply with the laws of the land. What do you think of this? So then John Taylor, he takes it up with the Lord, as any good prophet would do. He takes it up with the Lord and sees what the Lord says, and he says, not on my life. I'd rather my tongue ripped out from its roots, my arm severed from my body. I won't sign it. And as soon as he was dead, they couldn't run fast enough to get it signed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's the history of the church right there.
The break off, yeah.
They just comply with whatever society will gather in more numbers and bring in more money. That's how I feel about it. Religion. In today's world.
Yeah.
Whatever will bring in more money.
Yep.
And it got 100%. That way in the FLDS. I mean, we started a business with my uncle called Vertex Log Crafters. You had all the help you wanted. People just got directed to work for you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You go make some money, but what did we do with it? We sent thousands and thousands. Like one time our little tiny company, little family-owned business, a bunch of kids and myself working with each other, we sent them a $40,000 check. And that was on top of what we individually sent them out of our personal checks. And we was just a tiny little, like, they end up needing everything from you.
So
giving everything.
To that point, same person, Warren Johnson. I'm just going to say his name because I don't really like him. They had a settlement off a crash. One of his wives got in a crash, or like one of his sons got in a crash, and his wife was injured quite badly. They had a settlement off the crash that was $250,000 back in 2009, 2008 is when they settled, or around there. We're literally scratching pennies. I'm out working, getting like $1,800 a month, and he is calling me, asking me when I'm getting paid because they need to go shopping to Costco. He gets that settlement and sends the whole fucking thing to the church. And we're literally going shopping off my $1,800 a month.
What a beautiful act of faith. That man.
Right. And you know what? He got sent away.
He knew that a groundhog would bring you some food later.
That well dried up.
Yeah. Like, like, if that's not the definition of
stupidity.
Stupidity and letting other people control your life, what is, right? Like, and
being brainwashed.
And so if anybody faults me for not loving religion and because I tie spirituality with religion, that's what I went through. Shit like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We all kind of did, some more than others, for sure.
Absolutely.
And full disclosure, like for me, that religion, it did a lot for me. But as soon as Dad died, I tell you, it died.
It's how you took it, though. It's like, right? It's what you did with the information you got. And that's the most important thing in business and in politics and religion is the right mindset will get value out of every experience they go through.
Yep.
And so when we're talking about how does religion, spirituality, and politics and business all jive, that's only going to jive to those that really know how to get positivity and lessons out of every experience, and not get caught up in the emotions of the experience. Really see. I was having an argument with one person, with an individual. And it's like they're getting upset about the LDS church changing their laws. Like before, I can't remember. Like I'm just going to use the Negro situation. Before, Negroes couldn't in the LDS church couldn't hold priesthood, right? Well, they all of a sudden had an inspiration that
they could.
That now they can. Well, if you go into the details, just for our listeners' information, they had the pressure from the government saying we're going to start taxing you, stuff like that, if you don't get rid of this kind of stuff. Well, all of a sudden, the Lord inspired and revealed to their leader to change, and now they can hold priesthood. You could argue and find fault with the church for doing that, or you could simply say, everybody has to evolve. Everybody has to evolve.
To survive, they have to evolve.
They were getting so big and so much impact on society as a whole, on like millions and millions of followers. They have to comply and evolve with society, or they're going to be shot down.
That's exactly why the FLDS church is almost nothing.
It's non-existent. The society is still there, but the organization is nothing.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, and that's a lesson that I learned. Like that's why
you could use polygamy, the exact same scenario.
Oh yeah,
and that even a bigger way.
I don't necessarily blame the FLDS for carrying it on, because who doesn't want another wife? Like.
Me. One's enough.
I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying.
More respect for Dad than ever after just having one. And I love her.
Imagine if your wife was fine with you having another.
I would question her love for me. I would question her loyalty.
Yeah. But no,
that's a good point.
The lesson I get from it all, I know it may sound like I'm criticizing them for it, but the lesson I get from the LDS evolving is they have to evolve too. Yeah. If we think we don't have to evolve, we're going to be stuck in a rut that is going to be taken over by AI.
But if you're really spiritual, then what you evolve to, like, you still have to hold to some sort of a compass of what you're going to evolve to. Like, right. Where are you willing to not go? Like, where is your moral compass or your religion?
That's a personal decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's a personal decision, but you will find yourself stagnant if you don't let that evolve either.
Well, I was actually having a conversation with another brother of ours. He made a really good point. He kind of got me, because the person that said it was somebody I have no respect for at all. But he said, so therefore I'm not going to divulge who said it until after and I hope I get the quote right. But he said, something to the effect that, I won't get it right, but something to the effect that I thought I knew everything, but I allowed new information to come into my mind, and then I allowed my beliefs to evolve with that new information. Like you have to be careful with what information you take in and allow to alter your data bank. But you learn new things and then you evolve. Like, admit you was wrong and carry on. That is evolving.
Yeah.
But sacrificing your, being involved in something that you don't feel good about, that's, and someone else might. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm saying if you don't feel like it's right, it's wrong for you. Maybe next time you'll feel good about it because it didn't hurt you. I don't know. It's new information.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how well this is going to apply, but in my Vistage meeting, there's a very respectable gentleman. He's 85, 90, I can't remember. He's right on there. He built an amazing business in construction. And when I was introducing myself the first or second week or month being there, then he just says, "Really, you have partners, let alone brothers?" And he's just like, that's gonna fail. And I pointed him to Zittings, our competitors, and he says, "Oh, they're not without their issues either." And to me, it's just like, "Oh, of course you're gonna have issues." But my point is he dogged me for having partners. And in the middle of dogging me, he says, "I used to have a partner, and then I bought him out 50%, or like we were 50-50. Right there, don't ever be 50-50. That's just going to cause tension. There's no rules to 50-50. There's no, anyways. And he brought that up, and I just asked him one simple question. This is a very renowned person in Nevada. I just says, "Well, what did he do in the business?" And he says, "Oh, he was just a worker out there working." And I had too much respect for him to point out he's wrong. But I asked that question to affirm this in my mind. And that is when to your point, the information you have alters the way you believe on things. He didn't ever realize that partner needed to have personal responsibility in the business. Not in the field, not in the service you're providing, in the business. Like each one of us, we have our own respectable, accountable responsibilities inside the business.
Yep.
And so the information, he's an 85-year-old, built a $500 million a year business and doesn't believe in partnership.
And you hear that a lot. Like a lot. And I partnered once with one individual, and I would do it again. I just learned a lot. I wouldn't do it the same way, but I would do it again.
Yeah.
Because I don't see it as a mistake.
No.
I just see that, we just didn't do all the right things along the way.
Well, there's one individual partner that we're buying out right now. It's like, okay, we're evolving from that. We have new information.
He was very necessary at the time. Yeah. But now it's time to move on.
He has huge credit to where we're at today.
And for the audience, that's none of us four right here.
Yeah. Right.
That's another partner.
That us four are buying out. But it's a cool partnership. I mean, try to have a baby without a partner. Just try it.
Try to play tennis by yourself.
Yeah. I mean, partnerships are doomed to fail. Well, fuck you.
Try to win yourself at golf, for that matter.
Yeah. Exactly. Try to have a competitive, successful mindset without a partner to keep you accountable and to compare yourself to. Like, I mean, we all need each other.
Put heads together that want the same thing and have the same goals. You're going to have a stronger think tank, for lack of a better way to put it, a stronger base.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's take the principles that politics, which is the government, I'm speaking in this scenario. Let's take the principles that government was founded on. Let's take the principles that religion was founded on. What do they all have?
Do they have the same principles as business?
Well, the principles they're founded on, not how they are today. The principles they're founded on. They all have partners.
Yeah, there's not one person.
There's never just one person. There's a president.
Yeah. There's the one-man rule.
Yeah.
That was introduced in the 80s.
Yeah. Anyway, so like they all have partners to run the great scheme of things. So like they just all have to be in their respective. And another thing is, if you will go to the founding principles, they are there to keep each other accountable.
That was the idea. That was the idea, and that's a pure idea. I believe that's a pure idea because accountability would at least, and at the least, would divert corruption.
Yep.
So,
and obviously things have changed because ultimate power ultimately corrupts.
It goes the same way. You get a bunch of people that are corrupt and get them together, talking about our Biden administration.
We're going to end up effing each other, though. It's going to implode on us if we're all doing it with a corrupt vendetta.
Absolutely. I think that, and that's where I think religion / spirituality comes in to play with business. Is it's got to be for the right reasons, or else it already failed,
or else karma will come at you.
What's the right reason?
I don't know what you want to call it.
What's the right reason?
Don't hurt people and be honest.
Done. Those are the only two right reasons.
What if we would have had a third?
Well, there isn't one.
That covers it all.
It's the reason why I agreed with him so quick, because those are the only two. You cannot argue with those two. Try it.
Be honest and
what
don't
if
hurt
that
people.
person's hurting you?
They broke the rule.
Right.
They broke the rule first.
Are you just turning the other cheek, or you taking your life?
I'm gonna defend
you
myself.
Say don't
Fool
hurt
you
people.
Once.
There's an
It's
exception.
on them.
You wanted me
twice.
to argue with
It's
you
on
on
you.
that.
I love that point. Do you hit back?
Do I hit back?
No, that's what you're arguing.
Yeah.
Do you hit back?
Yeah.
Is the exception of don't hurt people, do you hit back? Absolutely. Because if you are able to be knocked down, who else is going to knock you down? And now that's going to start...
Whoever's seen you get knocked down and not hit back.
Exactly.
Get back up,
so now that's going to start tarnishing your reputation, which is your family.
Mm-hmm. And just think if Donald Trump wouldn't have hit back.
Exactly.
If Donald Trump never would have hit back, he never would have became the president the first time.
No, not at all.
Let alone the second and third time.
Well,
wait.
It was
so now we're down to one.
No.
Be honest.
No.
Yeah.
No, because let's be real.
I mean, we could go through and name a bunch of stuff, but there's holes in it.
This is the rabbit hole I was going to go down. So you say don't hurt yourself. Well, if you get
don't hurt others
and you don't hit back, don't hurt others. And if you get hurt and you don't hit back, you're being dishonest to those around you, saying, I will succeed for you.
If you have partners, maybe you're being dishonest to them, but to yourself.
I can be okay with it because I'm a huge fan in not hurting people.
Right.
Unless
but if hurting people requires you to be honest, I mean, there is some gray area there, but not when you go down the rabbit hole.
To be honest, there's people that can't defend themselves. And so it takes a good person to step in for others. The service or the duty of service to defend another person and fill the void that they can't complete, I think is one of the greatest acts that a human can do.
You know who my God is?
Jesus Christ?
Those that I commit.
His dad.
Those that I commit to. Those that I commit to. And because now it's my word. I tell my wife all the time. I tell my children all the time. I am going to, whether it's out loud or in my heart, I am going to become successful for you. Because I want you to have a life that I wished I had, of choice and not being ran by other people. That becomes my God, who I am committed to. In the sense of God.
Here's a rabbit hole.
And so
that is a good one.
And so if something is not, if there is a scenario in my life that is not contributing to that, then I would say.
Do you ever tell your child not to touch the stove?
Well, that goes back into teaching them not to hurt themselves.
That's the rabbit hole.
Well,
that's the rabbit hole I'm talking about is like the war in heaven where the devil had the idea that, yeah, everybody's coming back. We just force them to do good. That's it. I mean, everybody will be back. It's a great plan. And
that'd be
then
bland.
And then it was like, no, they got to have freedom of choice or there's no value here. So, like, but as a parent, I'm always taking their choice away, whether it's touching the stove and getting burnt. Like, that's how you learn not to touch the stove.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty stuck in like how I'm going to raise my kids, right? And obviously everything evolves with more information. You get more experience. You get everything evolves. I get a lot of people saying, "Well, what do you do here?" I mean, our sister Lana just said it the other day. Like, how are you going to keep your kids? Because I was asking her not to act a certain way around my kids. How are you going to keep them from doing that? And I'm just like, look, I can only help the kids out until they make choices on their own, until they can make their choices on their own. And one of the big
what age
principles,
is that?
I think that everybody's different. But the age in reality, honestly, is 18. I mean, that's the correct answer.
That's because that's what's in your
So
head.
you're going to call them until they're 18.
No, but hold on.
They can start making decisions on their own as soon as they start walking.
Hold on. I told her, I weren't done with my point. I told her that they can make their own decisions. It is my responsibility to sway as much as possible away from things that can hurt them.
Well, they're not technically making their own decisions if you're tampering what's said around them. Like you're driving a narrative.
Yeah, but what helps you decide what to set around them? It's what's going to injure them. What's going to injure them? What's going to alter their cognitive growth?
Here's the purity in that. Get this. I just had an idea. So we need guidance.
We should
to get
influence
back.
our kids.
Yeah, exactly. We need
guidance. I want to make that clear with my statement before. Like, I'm 100% believer that the parent's the one that needs to influence their children. No,
absolutely.
So
anyway, we need guidance, and we either seek it, or it come or you're in a religion, and then you're just like, that's your guidance.
Then it's societal guidance.
Yeah, or we self-guide ourselves, and I feel like this is the bracket we kind of fall in, but not without a lot of learning and experience to bring this into realization. But we self-guide ourselves to a cause and effect. We talk about common sense, like if you touch the stove, you're going to be burnt. If you jump off the cliff, you'll die. That kind of stuff that's kind of natural, but maybe we need a little guidance. And I believe as parents, that to a certain point is what I try and give my kids, is just a warning or saying, I think that if you do this, then this is going to be the outcome. I mean, there's tons of experiences, and we don't have time in this episode.
One thing
that's exactly, you tell your kids every choice they make. This is what I tell my kids: is every choice they make, there is a consequence. There's good consequences and there's bad consequences. But always remember, before you decide to do what you're thinking about doing, that there is a consequence that you will have to deal with later.
Who told you that when you was younger?
My dad.
Why didn't you listen before you tried to do a backflip off the calf shed?
or jump off the house with an umbrella.
Yeah. Take a sheet off the bed and go jump off of this or that. Like Mary Poppins.
So
Come on.
I want to make one more point. The worst thing, and this is not my quote, Jim Jordan, the worst thing that a parent could do for their children is stop them from doing dangerous things carefully.
Jordan Peterson.
Yes.
Jordan
not
Peterson.
Jim
Not
Jordan.
Jim Jordan.
He's balling.
Yeah. Jordan
That's the
Peterson.
politics.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
That's really great.
That is great.
That's really great. But the reason why I choose to warn them before, because I'll let Tanea, my oldest, I'll let her do stuff that could injure her. But I make sure I warn her before. Why? Because I want to build that trust. Because what's going to happen is she's going to do what she's going to do. But then she's like, oh, shit. That's what Dad said was going to happen.
Exactly.
And then it builds that trust. So it's a little strategic to make sure you warn them. But if they're bound to go learn,
let them learn. That's a dad's first instinct is to warn them and the mom. But you don't stop it because it's dangerous. Yeah.
I've learned the hard way on a lot of that stuff. You're rolling with an iron fist does. And then letting them figure it out on their own.
Another thing about kids, and I'm going to tie all this together when we're closing here, when we close. But one of the things I would like to point out, retell that I learned from a great guy that I follow online is Patrick Bet-David. You guys know him at all?
I don't.
He's really, you guys would love him. He's Patrick Bet-David. He has a YouTube channel called Valuetainment. Really great guy. Reading a couple of his books.
That's not the Barstool guy. No.
He said that he had a mentor up in Seattle, and that's a pointless point. But he was asking about his kids, and his mentor said, "Yeah, one's a lawyer, one's a hedge fund manager, and one's something else. Doctor." And he says, "Wow, all three of your children are successful." He's like, "You got success out of it. Tell me one thing. Tell me three things." This is what Patrick Bet-David said. "Tell me three things lessons that I could learn to help my children become successful." And he says, I don't need to tell you three things. I need to tell you one thing. Always keep your word. If you say you're going to punish them if they do something, punish them. But always keep your word. If you tell them no, follow through. And he says, why is that just it? He says, because it teaches the discipline it requires to become successful. The committing that it requires.
And we don't, I can speak firsthand of times where I didn't follow through with and it's not always because I knew, like my second daughter, Irie, she's always wanting to go play with her friends. She's always wanting to go hang out. Well, if your roommate, there's a rule.
Yeah.
If your chores aren't done and your homework's not done, then the answer is just no, so don't ask. But do I every time go look? She learned that if she just says yeah, that I'm like, okay, yeah, go. But I didn't go look. So now she gained a bad habit, which is lying to me and not being honest to me and following the rule. But I mean, and maybe she can say, well, that's clean to me. And I'm like, okay, well, we always add to mom's standards because mom's a deep cleaner.
Who made the rule? They get to decide that.
Both of us did. And that's why mom's clean to mom's standard is the thing.
So along the lines of being strict with your kid, the thing that I always think before I say no or this or that to my kid is, can I follow through with this? Am I gonna have what it takes to follow through with this? Before I give the ultimatum?
Yeah.
Then think about it. Could I follow through this ultimatum? That's, I would say, is more important than following through with the ultimatum.
If you can do that before you actually give the ultimatum, then yeah, that it. But I don't know where I went wrong because, I do try not to give warnings that I don't follow through with because I 100% believe in that theory. But with sometimes, 5 kids and your oldest one's 16 and your youngest one's 5, it's a lot fucking harder than you think.
Oh, I have no doubt. I'm simply saying, it works. try to do it all the time. I'm not saying you're Superman or anything, but that principle always works.
And you're better even just trying to use it. I'm sure everybody does.
Try and think about, and in the moments, it's hard for me to like remember stuff because I haven't done that. I haven't thought like, well, can I back that up? Yeah. And I've said a lot of empty rules.
Like how many of us answer our kids like, can I have this or can I do this off just impulse? Like the mood that you're in determines the answer they get. It's not, you don't really think about what they're asking you to do. You don't think, okay, like, well,
I get a weird look from my wife every time I do that. So I get it. I have accountability that way. That very thing is very much on, as parents, on mine and Tammy's thoughts. Just like, and I don't want to be taboo saying we don't want to fight around our kids, but we separate like so far, right? And it's fresh with us. We're only a couple of years into having kids, so I'm not saying that we don't fail, but we try to separate. When we're having harsh feelings, we separate. We don't try not to fight. We just separate as people. Like, I'll go out. I'll go do something. And vice versa. If it's my turn to turn the kids, and she'll go. But, I mean, that's just something that happens. And I'm not saying we're perfect at it, but one of the things I'll do, Tanae will come up to me and it's late at night and I don't want her watching the iPad anymore, and she'll come up and bring the iPad and I don't want her to, so I'll say no, and then I'll follow up with I'll say no, not right now. So that not right now gives me a way out, because you never know if something comes up and you need her to watch that iPad so you can focus on something, right? And so I'll say not right now. And it's a word I'll add, just a way out to getting out.
Well, that reminds me of
everybody has a compromise.
So it's not like we don't compromise. It's just like, do you set yourself up for the ability to compromise? Because compromise is always going to need to happen.
Yeah. That reminds me of something that a wise old owl told my wife once when we was barely starting. Like, our oldest was probably not even 2 yet. And he told her, which he'd already raised a family and had some grandkids, and ironically, he didn't even have that great of a relationship with them, but he watched my wife correct our 2-year-old, and he kindly pulled her aside, and this was her grandpa, step-grandpa, and he said, "It's always good to follow up with the reason why." And that kind of is, but it's a cop-out reason why. Because if you go with the reality, you're like, that's not healthy to watch that after this dark, or something else that you believe is the reason why. Because like we go through spurts at our house, that whole tablet thing. Like, if the kids are acting like assholes, we just take them all away, and it fixes everything every time. Why do we give them back? Yeah, we give them back. Then they start acting like assholes again after a month or so, and we take them away again. Yeah, and it works every time.
Well, it wouldn't work if they didn't ever have them.
That's right.
No, I think that devices are a necessary evil. I do.
You couldn't take a child and try and raise it without a device. They're going to be so far behind in the world
in
and
society.
Another
thing, I just thought of this, so I'm really brainstorming here. So back in the days, we could all say that kicking our kids or trying to use, I want to say,
strong discipline.
Yeah, strong discipline was used way more back in the days. Right?
Oh, yeah, it was.
Well, I barely thought of this. Here's a possible reason why. Devices allow our kids to stop bugging the fuck out of the parents. And every time you give strong discipline, let me finish my point. Every time you give strong discipline, it's because they're bugging you.
If you actually look inward every time you raise your voice with, there is like disappointment. Even with Dad, disappointment was so much different and so much more harsh than a kick in the ass or even a whipping or whatever. Like when you disappointed somebody and that was the worst when it come to a parent.
And giving them a device is just allowing someone else, whatever they're watching, to teach them something right now.
I agree that helps us not want to kick their ass more, but the reason why it stopped is because of the yuppie.
The yuppie?
Mm-hmm. The narrative of raising your kids for you. Controlling how they're being raised. You create a weak person.
This really is.
I think it's the value of like devices.
People worried about getting their kids stuck away because they corrected them too hard. That's why it stopped.
Spankings and all that stuff. Like if you don't spank them, then I don't even know how they would learn.
Is a reason
sometimes.
But a part of the reason, and anyways, I think that's a part of a reason. But I really think that if you dug down deep in, that's why you don't have the desire so much. Now, a good point. With that, we're going to let you guys go. You guys been here for an hour and 10, 12 minutes. We really appreciate you being here. And we got going a lot about family there. But if you think about it, the principles that build a successful family are the same principles that religion was founded on, that politics was founded on, and that for sure will make you successful in business. Come on back next week to Build Beyond with Tech Talk. Thank you.